It's really hard for us to have the knowledge that you have, and you've written about this, because what we read is that Russia's economy is strong. I heard that its GDP is forecast for this year to be stronger than France, the UK, and the United States. And yet you've written major pieces in the Wall Street Journal saying that the sanctions are taking effect. I don't see it yet.
I think it's useful. The expectation of the sanctions for many people was like a nuclear bomb. You deploy it, it explodes the Russian economy. I prefer a little bit more elaborate, something like two hoses, two oxygen hoses going into the body of the Russian economy and society. One with the profits from gas and oil, and the other with technologies, especially dual-use technologies. But also, consumer goods. Russia is very bad in producing quality consumer goods. It always bought them from the West or from the South. So we are not constrained. We are not blocking these hoses, but we are stepping on them increasingly with an increasingly leaden foot. And we are slowly degrading the Russian society, and most importantly, a Russian economy and Russian finance. For example, they pay much more for a number of things that they used to get. And so, as far as the GDP, indeed, the thing here is very simple, I think. Russia, through trillions of rubles, which is hundreds of billions of dollars, from various sources, including their rainy day national welfare fund, into the military-industrial complex. And that counts as the GDP and the tanks and the cannons and everything else, and enormous salaries for the soldiers. And yes, the GDP is up, but also is the inflation, because as Elvira Nabiullina, who is the head of the Russian central bank, and who really tends to speak truth every now and then, pointed out that the military-industrial complex is bleeding the civilian economy dry, both in terms of labor, because the salaries are much higher, and even draft. And so you have inflation because the economy cannot safely digest those trillions of dollars. We have 7.5% inflation officially. Nabiullina raised the prime rate. How about that, to 16.5%? Astronomical by any standards. But what the Russian economists are saying is that while the average is 7.5, the staples, eggs, butter, sugar, and some others that are purchased by those below the median income, which is about $300 to $400 a month, that inflation is about 24%. So this is a double-edged sword. You could jump up the GDP, but you also have to look at the unintended consequences.